weekend.
Yeah,
So if you're
true.
interested, please reach out to us. We spend a lot of time, a lot of our precious free time, and will even your full-time job, working on this stuff. But anyway, let's jump to the actual game. Really a must-win for Josh, who's going first. We see a Z out there pretty quickly. It doesn't look like too much good stuff to go with it. Probably
Yeah,
go for a 30 point play.
I don't think he can reach the double letter score with that Z here, which is
No.
always so tantalizing to start off with that Z. If you can find a 5-letter word that either starts with a Z or places the Z on one of the two double letter scores, you can get 50 points to start the game. I don't think Josh will be able to do that. But yeah, definitely want to call out Josh Castellano's flowing locks, his beautiful mane.
Yeah.
It's gone. I can't believe this. I mean, I know yesterday I was so proud to announce that I got a haircut, but my hair before I got my haircut looked terrible, whereas Josh had this beautiful mane that seems to be gone now. So RIP
And
to that.
you know what's so funny is because we have all these new players here this weekend, and they've been hanging out with the Joshes quite a bit. Axer Typo being the other Josh. There have been multiple times. Obviously, I'm close with Josh Castellano. We have inside jokes and everything, and I would say something to him, and then I would just do a double take. I'm like, wait, did I just tell some random person that I don't know something ridiculous? I'm like, oh wait, no, Josh just got his haircut.
Yeah. Yeah, that's jarring. That's jarring
Yeah,
to see
it's
that.
really, really, really funny.
All right, tease is the play, archaic spelling of a normal word. That looks pretty good to me. AY is not the best possible leave to set yourself up to play a bingo, but I think tease for 30 starts out the game pretty accurately for Josh there. I don't think he had a better option. So Austin, on the other hand, consonant overload. He's happy to see those two S's. But other than that, he's going to try to dump as many consonants as possible. I guess he can play Favel or Flava here. One of those.
Favel would be interesting because it lends itself to all sorts of interesting hook words, like ways you could make the word longer that get
True.
into even more interesting things, like what if Favel shows up? We may see that here. If you hook an A versus hooking an L, all sorts of weird stuff could happen. So
What are your thoughts on playing an extra S here?
I keep the S. I know sometimes I'm in the minority here, but I don't like giving my opponent that kind of extra information for just 2 points.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you here. So basically, what we're talking about is normally an S is the best letter in the game outside of the blank. But having two of them on your rack is not this additive property. Just because an S is really good, it doesn't make two S's twice as good. It actually means that every S after the first dramatically decreases in value. So basically, the choice is, should Austin play his second S here? And it turns out he does not. And the reason you wouldn't play the second S, even though technically there are many reasons why you would, is that your opponent can learn so much about your rack from the fact that you're playing off an S when you don't need to. They know when you play an S for only one more point than you would have gotten normally, they know you have another one. You would not do that unless you had a second S available. They're too valuable to use that way. So giving your opponent that information will help them play very differently, much more defensively than if you do what Austin did here, which is even though he kept two S's on his rack, he doesn't give Josh any more information about what he's likely to hold. So hopefully that makes sense. But either way, Josh is sitting on a nice rack here. He will be bingoing almost. I mean, yeah, he will be. So.
He will. He'll definitely bingo, but it won't be for, I think, as much or in shaping the board in a way that you'd really like. Right?
You know what? This is actually an incredible example. There are two bingos available here. Ugary for 66. On top of the E of T's, you would play YE, and aureity underneath the E or on top of the E. But the key is that Aureity does not take an S, right? It ends in ITY, and Ugary does take an S. So you see how Austin's choice is manifesting itself now. If Austin had played Flavas, Josh would play Aureity in a heartbeat because it doesn't take an S hook. But because Josh has no extra information about what Austin is holding, he may go for the extra points with Ugary, and that's going to cost him a lot of points on the scoreboard here. So it's really interesting, actually. So Aureity gives big playback spots, but actually, if you play Aureity on top of the E of T's, it gives very little playback, right? Like the the only big tile that you can put underneath an I is an F, and one of those is already on the board. If you were to play Aureity under the E of T's, that gives you big playback. There are a lot of tiles that go on top of an I for a huge score. You could see the Q, a QUA play, a QUO play, the X, the H, the K. So so anyway, let me give the score here.
Looks like Austin was actually holding the play for a bit. It appears the fact that they are both writing stuff down. I'm guessing Josh is now going to draw tiles. Obviously Austin's going to be able to score perfectly well here. 14 Domino noting YODH could even play. Well, he adds the S. Don't think I would add the S here, but that's kind of interesting. A really good scoring play that doesn't even use an S for that hook and kind of saves it for next turn.
That's great copy pasta by Jello Mochas. I referred to that before when we were talking about broadcasters, Conrad. Jello Mochas with the commentary from Tom Brenneman, the former Reds broadcaster, but he's copy pasted it for me. That's actually hilarious. I love that. Well played. It's a really kind of cool application of this opponent information idea. It's such a difficult skill. I feel like in the pantheon of Scrabble skills to learn, you have to learn to obviously learn the short words, learn some basic concepts like valuing the letters left over for next turn. Then you start to move into board control. And then finally, using your opponent's play as a clue to what other letters they're holding and adjusting your play in response. I feel like that is maybe the most advanced. I don't know. Is that a wrong order, would you say? Or maybe board control is at the top of the list.
Yeah. Sorry, I was focused on chat for a bit, so I'm not giving you the answer that you wanted.
Oh, no worries. It's totally fine. So let's see. Austin playing Yod. Very nice. Scoring 42. So this is another situation where he's keeping his S's. So let's see. Yeah. Austin moving up to 63. And Josh has drawn an S of his own with a bunch of consonants to go with it. So, I think, though, that Josh is going to be able to play something like Sext underneath if he wants it for 57 points.
Yeah, those are some points. Too bad there's no Orn. Orn would be nice.
Oh, right, yeah. That would be ideal. Actually, there's also Vexed underneath T's, too, if you want to take that. Yeah. It's 41. It leaves an S. The S is kind of valuable here just because now there are a couple places where the S would really hit quite hard. You could pluralize Yod with a play up to the upper right-hand corner, a 6-letter word ending in S. That would be a really heavy scoring play, depending on what you use. And obviously, Ugaries.
Now, here's one for you, Will. Have you ever played in a game of Scrabble such that, it may not be the best play, but CASSIS for Austin next turn? Arguably the best play. Have you ever seen that before? Will you ever see that again?
I've seen it in Boggle. Yeah,
And,
I have not seen it. I have not seen it in Scrabble. I have to admit that would be pulling one from deep out of the probability range.
Yeah.
And when we talk about probability in Scrabble, we just mean the letters in Scrabble are arranged in a certain way. There's 12 E's, there's 6 R's and T's and N's. And basically using that information about what letters are in the Scrabble set, you can determine which words are the likeliest to actually show up in a game. So when you hear us talk about probability, we just mean there are some words that, based on the tile distribution in Scrabble, are really, really, really unlikely. And Cassis, as a 6-letter word, would have been exactly such a word. The good spot for it was just taken off the board, but there is still merit to potentially playing Cassis from the upper right corner down to Yodes, right? Like, that's not a crazy idea here for Austin.
Yeah. I mean, it would be pretty funny. For those of us non-teetotalers, we all know what the word means. But it would be pretty cool. It would be a pretty cool play to see.
Yeah, I don't think it's best just because it doesn't score quite enough points to burn all of your ammunition. You could easily just play something like Voss off of the V of Flava and score 25 points, leaving cysts on your rack. I think that probably makes more sense. It's not that many fewer points, and you just keep much better chances of continuing to score well with your S on future turns. So it gives away, right?
Yeah.
Cassis, completely depleting all of your S's would give your opponent information that you had 3 S's. Exactly.
It gives them the information that you have the 5th S, because Josh just
you wouldn't do that otherwise. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, why would you do that otherwise?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it's a tricky situation. You could play Vast, maybe Vast is. No, Vast isn't helpful, because if your opponent sees you play Vast, they're going to say, well, why didn't you just play that, right? Like, they're going to know you have more S's. So maybe Vasts, it's hard to say. This is a tricky one.
One of the things that'll be interesting, though, I think, about this game is, we already see ZX blank out. All of the S's are already accounted for.
Yeah.
It's possible that we may just see most of the power tiles blown through really quickly, and that could really make for an interesting game. It's also possible that Josh will just be too far ahead, given that he's got a shot at bingoing again next turn. But we'll see. Those are always interesting when all the power tiles get played really early, and it's really just like kind of a slog to play what we would maybe call like the clunkers, the weird stuff.
Yeah, so all the good stuff is hitting the board early, and we're gonna see some of that clunk coming out. What are we thinking literally about? So Austin thinking about cuss and teases there. I'm just wondering if, is there any merit to just plopping your S down with teases for 17 points and us and keeping ACISST? You're going to bingo a fair amount with that. It scores 17 points. You preserve pretty good chances of, I don't know. Just plop your S down. That could be.
How much does it hit? The thing, you maybe just plop down the S, then maybe you get a big play in reserve on the O column next turn.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. So
set up the USA hook.
Nice.
Team USA. Where are the glasses, Will? Can you get the glasses maybe?
The glasses are always here. But just plopping the S down, you do hit a bunch of the vowels, right? Casitas, Assites, and Scotias, Casuist. So you're hitting every vowel but I, and I'm sure you're hitting a ton of other stuff. So that's intriguing. Of course, we're talking about your play giving your opponent information. Plopping an S down by itself for 17 points gives your opponent the most possible information of, at least in general, you're telling your opponent, my rack is really strong and has at least 1, maybe 2 S's in it. and you should be on guard against that. So anyway, it looks like Cuss will be the play here for Austin, which, I understand it. I guess the worry here, though, is that now you don't really have a great way to play an S 7-letter bingo where the S is the final letter, right? You might get that, but there's no obvious spot to play something ending in S.
Yeah,
So,
and here's a situation where, Josh is thinking that play is pretty sus, and that all right, he's got the other S for sure.
He did have the Galaxy Brain block of anterior, though.
Yeah, he did block anterior in the process.
Yeah.
No bingo now for Josh. But as we noted earlier, Josh now will be on red alert.
Full red alert, yeah.
Yeah. Though it looks like there's a pretty nice little drop of VORS right there, I'm guessing, making Ur and Zoe.
Yep, totally. That looks great. So Josh's issue, he's got the 2 R's on the rack. You got to use one of the 2, excuse me, and that is just what the doctor ordered, scoring 26 points, leaving a really strong bingo leave, EINRT. Great low point bingo tiles that harmonize very well together. So Josh's chances of bingoing on his next turn are quite good. Even though the board's not great for it, I still feel like his chances are decent of getting a bingo here.
Yeah. I guess that is the thing, is he didn't really address the hooks, and as Jello points out, Cuss taking a back hook.
Oh, yes. Tricky one.
Yeah, but I think as it turns out, I'm guessing Kuya is probably going to come down making Ka very quickly.
And there, you're right.
The same middle S in the middle of the word. Ooh, the Q picked up by Josh.
Wow, tough Q draw.
Yeah, at least, again, he'll be able to dump QI. I guess, this is a situation where if he can avoid a bingo coming down from Austin imminently, which we are about to find out whether or not that'll happen, QI over on the left does play some pretty good short-term, board control, and what Austin will be able to do with opening that top side of the board. QI and if.
Yeah, also being called out though. If you're Josh and you're up, you could just abandon your quest for bingoing and score Trank for 48 points through the A. I mean, that's with the score being what it is. Josh doesn't have to bingo, so that's definitely an option. I think it's defensible either pathway, but I think Trank is probably what I'd favor. So
yeah, I'd probably favor Trank as well. Again, all of my comments come with the moves not vetted by not having access to the remaining tiles, since I'm not tracking things on my own here.
For sure.
But in sort of this sort of vacuum that we are in our analysis, I think it's okay to go ahead and block that left side of the board with Trank. And,
it is a good point, though, that after Cuss, it is a little worrisome that your opponent has an S to hook onto Tranks.
Yeah.
But then again, that S would be the 4th and final S. So are you really that upset when your opponent plays the case S to do something down to the triple when you're up by 110, right? Like that, that's not that alarming. Oh, okay, so we'll see Chi anyway. I don't think this is like a devastating mistake or anything like that, especially if Josh draws a bingo and pulls away as a result of this play. But let's just see how the game unfolds. This is definitely a sort of play that could become an inflection point if Josh doesn't draw very well after this and Austin comes back in the game.
Yeah. So. Also worth noting, QI quite possibly a better play for Josh here, solely because his point spread in the tournament is much lower than the people he's trying to catch up to. Trank, leaves him with fewer points, a smaller future. This way, he's scoring points, saving well, better shot at maybe getting to play anterior again, or perhaps this time interior. In this case, Josh may want to play for a bigger win, in which case this is much more of a defensible play, despite it not actually being defensive.
Yeah, makes sense. But definitely it's been
game.
noted. It's been noted, though, that Josh is seemingly determined to play the word anterior at some point.
I think he'll play interior.
He will play interior. Yeah, he will play interior this time. But some version of that word he seems pretty dead set on eventually playing. So the question here is, I feel like Austin, even though you don't want to give up that last S, I feel like he has to cash it here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You're down by too many points, and you're down by a lot of points. You're putting some good letters out in space, especially that R. If you play something like Trigos, he could even, I don't think I favor this, but if you want to put the G out on the upper right corner, so maybe you hit an ing word, you could play griots for 3 fewer. I would still play Trigos. I think that's clearly better.
Agreed.
So I think he has to do that at this score. He's down by too much. You can't just fish off letters going for a bingo for only, less than 10 points or whatever you might do here. Or I don't know, what would be the fish? Like git and gif, as we discussed yesterday, the pronunciation of that. But yeah, I think Austin has to part with that final S, even if it hurts here.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that, we're kind of speaking over without maybe being super blunt about it is, S is a great tile. It's still even great for making, any sort of 7 or 8 letter word, but its value is much higher when you can say play a 7-letter word ending in S, right? A lot of its value comes from the fact that English words are pluralized more often than not with an S. But on this board, there's no way to really end a 7-letter word with an S, and there's not really going to be anytime soon. Starting with an S, sure, with Kuya is perfectly good, but the S is just, it's not going to have as much value on this board, so he can be more willing to part with it, given that he's going to have to bingo again pretty soon anyway.
Interesting. I did not see that as an option. I don't love that choice for Austin here.
No, it's that's a pretty, in my opinion, pretty sizable. And it didn't even seem like he had Trigos spelled out at all. So he may not have seen it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's just, it doesn't score very much. You're not keeping that strong of a leave, and you part with your R, which is one of the better bingo tiles that you had on your rack. So that just feels like a difficult situation. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like it was maybe not so difficult and clear to play Trigos there for so many more points. But look at that. He does have a bingo.
But again, if you're in Josh's position, you see Austin play Spoutier in a sec here. Like, I don't know, I'm thrilled. That's a low-scoring bingo.
Yeah,
it's slotting a vowel in that triple lane that I can use if I want to score points back, taking out a bunch of like real estate on the board. Kind of like
a 62-point bingo. A 62-point bingo that closes the board quite effectively is with all the S's gone, right? Like this is there are worse things that could happen to you if you're Josh here, and there is the second blank on Josh Castellano's on his rack. So Austin Shin may have to wait just a little bit longer if he wants to repeat as champion, but we'll have to see how the rest of the game plays out. There's still a lot of game left. Austin sees Spoutier, you can see. Arden asks, is drawing from a bag held above your head a tournament thing? Yes, it's definitely specifically a tournament rule that you have to have your eyes averted from the aperture of the bag. However you draw, holding it above the head, turning your head to the side, something where your opponent has no concerns about whether you're looking in there or not. So Spoutier is the play for Austin. He is still down. He's going to be down by, well, actually, does Josh have a play to the triple? Doesn't look like a great one.
No, I mean, you'd have to probably burn the blank, but it's possible.
You wouldn't do here,
you wouldn't do here, but this, I don't know. Is it crazy enough to do something like Gov?
I mean
that it neutralizes all of those triples for the rest of the game.
It's not crazy. It's
crazy.
It is a little crazy, I guess. It's off the beaten path. I think exchanging is just fine. I guess Yeah, I don't love playing very much through the U. You can't play. If I was going to play anything, it would be Gov for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I'll preface my comment by saying I will be the first person to say that I'm like one of my weaknesses, and feel free to exploit it against me, everyone, because I'll still be in a good shape in this position. But I'm not really good at playing with like a lead of like over a bingo. Like to me, Gov seems like obvious, but I also recognize that like, or maybe Fung or something. I also recognize that like this is not a situation that I'm very good at. So I'm interested to see what happens here because I know what I would do here, and I do really want to see how this plays out essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the reason for exchanging now, if you're Josh, obviously, is that you can immediately get out of this consonant-heavy situation where the risk of a play like Gov, of course, is what if you draw 2 more consonants, right? What if you continue to make plays like that for 2 or 3 more turns and you continue to get those nasty draws? Whereas if you exchange 5 right now, the odds of you drawing 5 more consonants and being mired like this, and look at that, the ESP from you to Josh. He plays Gov, which I mean, I totally get the logic of it. Let's just see if he draws some vowels, and if he does, he's going to be just fine. But I would be concerned again of if Josh Castellano gets a 2 vowel draw. Well, even a U is not great, right? Like that's not a wonderful draw for him, but it's probably enough. That U is probably enough to save him.
Yeah. So I can pretty much tell you what Josh was thinking. Deldar, you'll note that I intentionally preface my comment by saying this is the exact situation that I'm not that good at. So did own up to it.
And I'm just to clarify, I would have exchanged there for sure. Just to clarify.
And that's I mean honestly like that play alone was worth streaming these 4 games just to have this conversation. Honestly,
true.
I won't lie.
That's a weird choice though by Austin though, playing up there. What's his thought process there? I guess not wanting to mess with the lower part of the board at all, because like there were ways for him to do much better with his leave on the lower part of the board with like Moho or Homo or something on top of interior. I guess maybe he didn't want to compromise his ability to open that part of the board more effectively later. I don't know. I'm not sure about that play, but still, almost nothing for Austin is going to be that enticing here. So, yeah. Anyway, is the play for Austin. He cuts the deficit to 70, and punt coming down for Josh up high to deal with that new spot. That looks pretty good, I think. Liking that choice for him there. I don't know. Other options for Josh Castellano in this situation were much more open. Something like enough from the E of interior is not something he would ever play at this score to put a letter out in space. So punt makes a lot of sense to grab some points and open literally nothing useful back to Austin. So I like his choice there.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And you know, Josh is really just looking for a chance to play over to the right and block kind of the remaining lanes. He looks like he's drawn some bingos, but I don't know that they're going to play.
Yeah, this is the situation where if you're Josh, you're sitting and hoping that Austin's game score necessitates him opening the board with some play that puts a letter out in space. You know, Austin is down by 90, so he has a lot of incentive to make some kind of an opening. I'm not sure what that opening could possibly be that will allow Josh to actually bingo with this rack. Josh may have to wait, but obviously Josh is still right on the cusp of landing that knockout blow in this game that's going to deliver him the win. So
yeah. So Marlon notes in the chat, punt atop interior. That's actually what I was expecting too. I don't know what the remaining tiles are again. So like I don't know like what was left, which obviously could have some effect of whether or not you want to block that really huge lane at the top, or the more likely lane to hit bingos down in the bottom right. So I don't know. I like the idea of neutralizing the lanes, opening up yourself a pretty decent scoring spot for next turn. Hooking, punt. Again,
I don't know.
I don't know what was in the pool.
Yeah, I can start getting the tracking going here. So from Austin's POV, the unseen tiles to him will be as follows. Should be coming shortly. So yeah, maybe the suggestion of maybe Vif on the Gov play, I guess that could be nice. It scores a few points, gets rid of your 2 weaker tiles. That's a cool option. But yeah, in this situation for Austin, I don't know. This is tough. It's hard to generate a play that has winning chances here.
Yeah. Admittedly, I just want to talk about the Gov play more.
Yeah.
Will, maybe you could. We've actually gotten this question a couple times today. How Nigel is doing? I know that you have had at least a little bit of contact with him. Can you confirm that he is doing just fine as of your last communications?
He's doing fine. Yeah, I mean, he's doing as well as anyone could be expected. I'm sure he's actually holding up better just because maybe some of us that are desperate to go out there and do social stuff. I don't know. I think Nigel's probably fine just doing what he already normally does, but he seems to be doing all right. I mean, mostly I have had some discussions with him through Michael Tang, so Michael would be the better person to ask even than me. But yeah, hoping the world gets a little further back to normal, and I have every expectation we will see more of Nigel in the future.
So here is certainly Alu kind of forcing the board open a little bit. Looks like Austin's drawn a pretty nice play up there. Now Josh has to start thinking about, he's down to kind of like the weird edge cases now, right? Like he's going to be up at least 100 no matter what. It's up to him to decide how does he want the board to play out the rest of the time. It's pretty simple to just go ahead and play something in the top left with a diff or something, which he has spelled out. But you could also open up another triple and just kind of YOLO a bit and just give up on defense and just kind of try to outscore, knowing that you already have the blank. We would see Austin play Cameo in that case, and then this could get interesting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for Josh, he doesn't want to put any letters out in space that he doesn't have to, but a D in first position is not as painful as some of the other alternatives. The D definitely appears more frequently at the end of words in suffixes than as the starting letter. So I feel like this is as safe of an idea as he can get. And he's up still now, 331 to 229, over 100. I'm feeling still pretty comfortable if I'm Josh, even with that new threat there.
Yeah, if looking at the tile pool, all those A's and E's still to come, looks pretty good. Of course, he decided to draw 2 W's. Maybe Austin is trying to pull off what he did against Puneet yesterday.
My God.
Just use his like psychic mind powers to make Josh draw ridiculous tiles.
Well, at the very least, Josh does have that blank here. If he does get into a really sticky situation, he can extricate himself from it with the blank. But honestly, what's wrong with just wow in this situation? If you're scared about those 2 W's, you have the second blank. All the other S's are gone. The F's are also on the board for wow. So like you can play wow and really not worry that you're giving anything back to Austin, right?
Yeah,
it's not nearly as dangerous as usual.
Yeah, and it's actually, it's great because it would block those lanes. But let's say that Austin blocks that spot.
Now you're in trouble.
Comes into play again.
Yeah. Now without that spot available, yes, there is some trouble brewing for sure. So we'll see.
Things get interesting.
I mean, Austin could play Mo. Well, I mean, maybe he's thinking about playing Mo. He could be playing Mo with FAE in the upper left, which would put an M out in space there.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah, he could be about to play it on that O of interior, which would block the W spot, and that makes things much more difficult for Josh. But even then, that as we mentioned yesterday, you love it when your opponent kind of does your job for you, blocking some lanes. So
you love to see it.
So we'll see. Emmy Hill says fawn as a way of getting rid of one of the W's, I should say, and not using your vowel. That looks fine too. So there's definitely plenty. There's a couple different options for Josh to shed consonants without giving much back. So, oh yeah, Nemo Ace. Yeah, paging Nemo. Not sure if Nemo is hanging out in the chat. We have a nice number of concurrents right now. I want to thank everybody for watching our coverage. We're here in round 18. We've got this round here still in the balance. 2 more games after that to wrap up our 3-day coverage of the 2022 Crescent City Cup. Appreciate everybody for being here, watching along. Hope you guys are enjoying the coverage.
Yeah, react in the chat if you've been here for all 18 games. I bet some of you have.
Wow.
I know I have.
The 2 of us have. And I feel like some others have too. All right, there's Ace. Ace goes down. I wonder what the thinking is for that. Just continue to open stuff. I mean, I feel like Mo is still slightly better.
Maybe it's a play on 3 A's unseen still. I don't know, but obviously WoW comes down instantly.
WoW comes down instantaneously. Yep, that looks totally fine. I guess you could consider playing Widow there if you wanted, but I think WoW is fine. You don't want to use up your vowel and then get hit with only consonants. So I think I like that choice for Josh. He's still up by quite a bit. Let's get the tracking from Austin's POV here with his rack of Boardman without an A.
And worth considering here, we know that Josh has the blank, but this whole time Austin has been playing, trying to go for that blank. So we're going to see Abdomen come down here. From our point of view, we know it's game over if he does that. But from his point of view, that's actually a great play. You score a bunch of points. It's a bunch of shots at the blank. And also opens a really nice new lane. So from his point of view, for a brief moment, there is some hope.
Yeah, the Abdomen
Josh
is a
will immediately
wonderful play.
In the game.
Yep, yeah. Abdomen. But what if Austin draws, the rack that Josh has right now? You could easily see that comeback for him here. But instead, we're going to see Josh. He's taking a look. Tracking's now updated. Abdomen, a great way of plunging into the bag and getting 6 tiles there. Mary Aline says just missed the first half of each of the first games. That's pretty good. Good. Thank you very much to Mary for being here.
Yeah. And Mary, hope we'll see you at some events on the West Coast this year. I've known Mary for almost 2 decades now.
So, let's see. Josh is looking at a pool that has 8 tiles in the bag, 15 tiles unseen total. So he can bingo and realize that he's not emptying the bag, which is sometimes a scary prospect. If the score of a game is really close, you do have to do a sanity check late in the game. Even if you have a bingo, if you look into the bag and there are 7 tiles exactly in the bag, you have to think for a moment, do I actually want a bingo here? Because if my opponent has a bingo in response and I draw some really clunky tiles, as you can see, unseen in this game is the J, the B. If you were to draw the J and some other stuff, maybe your opponent bingos and catches you with a bunch of those tiles. But at this score, no worries at all for Josh. He's going to score something in the high 70s to 80 points and be home free in this game. And there still will be one tile in the bag afterwards. So this will be a win for Josh. As we said, Austin's going to have to wait just a little longer if he wants to clinch as the repeat champion of the Crescent City Cup.
So, hey there, Designer 1900. As a designer myself, what kind of design do you do? Welcome to the scene, and glad to see you here. Tell me more about where the name comes from.
Yeah, great to have you aboard. Hope you're enjoying. And obviously, just a quick extra little important thing to note. If you're watching this and saying, oh my God, these players are incredible. They know so many words I've never seen before. They are just, it's mind-boggling, the Scrabble that I'm seeing played. That's normal, right? These are literally the best players in the country, some of the best players in the world. So if you're seeing this and saying, I could never do this, these guys all started out saying the same thing, and it took them years of practice and study to get to this point. So don't be discouraged. Scrabble is an awesome game to play at any skill level, and there are skill levels across the spectrum competing at this tournament. We're just bringing you the top players to watch.
Yeah. I mean, not everyone even necessarily starts like Josh and Austin and myself that are, we started as kids.
For sure.
But I've seen. I remember when I first started playing, there was a woman who played her first competitive tournament in her late 80s and played until the ripe old age of 100. I played her in a tournament when I was 14, and she was 93. And she was an intermediate player. Was playing in the second division. It was really cool.
And we're gonna finally see the bingo choice instead of Tolidine or anything like that. We're going to see Eidolon, which gives very little back in response. I wonder. I mean, that seems fine. I feel like every bingo wins pretty emphatically, every time here for Josh. So there's really no need to be this careful, but he's being careful here.
Yeah. Now I wonder, is he considering the universe where he draws the J as the last tile, and this ensures he has 2 J spots?
Well, yeah. What an interesting thought. Well, he's going to draw a full rack, right? So
a full rack. I need to stop. I need to pay more attention to you when you say,
sorry, I wasn't clear. I wasn't clear enough. So what I meant was, I think that he is going to leave one tile in the bag after his bingo.
Got it. I was thinking there was one tile in the bag.
Sure. But to your point, after Austin's play, like the two players are roughly equally likely to have a J. I don't know. Austin did just play 6 tiles. So if Austin had played shorter, then I might be more inclined to play Eidolon, because I know that Austin is not going to be playing short with a J on his rack. So Eidolon with that O down on the lower left part of the board is a nice way to overlap your J. That could have been a thought process there, but maybe not so much after Abdomen, where Austin's rack is much closer to random, right? Drawing 6 tiles out of that bag.
Yeah, and as it turns out here, he's drawn Jenga, except that's not a word, but he has drawn the very excellent word of Ganja.
Ganja,
which
could
will
we
score
see
a
Ganja?
lot of points.
Yeah, I think, though, that let me just show from Austin's perspective now. I'm going to put the tracking up, and you can see Ganja really stands out. Looking at these 8 letters, AAAEGJNN. Austin's going to see that, and he's going to say, all right, I'm not going to win this game, but at least I can stop my opponent from playing Ganja down there. So
I mean, from his perspective, he's probably trying to figure out what's his best one tile fish to draw an out bingo, right?
True.
Or is he just going to play?
I think he's just going to realize even those plays are not going to secure him the win here.
Yeah, and I hadn't realized he had 25 seconds on his clock. So.
I didn't realize that either. Yeah. I absolutely did not notice that. So Austin Normally a very, very fast player, taking his time this game. And that makes sense just because when you are trailing in a game for most of it, you do have to spend a little more time thinking and getting creative for coming up with ways to make that comeback. So I find I spend my largest amounts of time in games where I'm trailing the whole way.
Yep.
So this will be a nice win.
Honestly, yeah, this is the closest we've even seen to going over on time, right?
Yeah, have we seen anyone on stream go overtime even once?
Not yet. I don't even think anyone's really even been that close. Maybe once or twice.
Yeah, that's impressive. That not a single person that I can't remember it if it has happened. So, maybe Eidolon gives back Benaler, which would have played with a bunch of overlaps. Yeah, that could be. I mean, a bad mistake. Yeah. He's still going to win the game with ease, I think, even after that. But yeah, didn't maybe need to create those 7-letter overlapping plays. But either way, Josh played quite well. Both players playing pretty well here, I think. Some plays to cut our teeth into and talk about. I think that opening sequence with the S's was very instructive.
Yeah. I mean, to me, definitely the most interesting game of the tournament. A lot to learn from. I will certainly want to go back and look at a couple of these plays, just for my own edification, in the future.
Yeah, definitely interested also in, we have 20 of these amazingly produced games of live streamed Scrabble. Definitely, it'll be my job to make sure that we preserve those and do some cool stuff after the fact. So I will be very interested to comb through these games and find some interesting teaching moments to maybe do some deep dives into a position or two. And as you said, Conrad, sometimes you notice a nuance of a play like well after the game, right? Like is actually completed. There is a lot to be gained from going back over a Scrabble game with a fine-tooth comb after the fact. So I'm very excited to do that with these games and see what we can uncover. And hopefully I'll get some blog posts up at playscrabble.com and other locations, maybe some YouTube videos, etc. to that effect. All right, so it looks like Austin is going to go out with Went, his best outplay. Final score of this game after Liber, I didn't give him his points for that, is going to be 454 to 352. Win for Josh Castellano in his first live streamed game. It's taken him long enough, but he is, he must be on quite the streak here to have fought himself back into position in this way.